Welcome to Marketing Today. I'm your host, Alan Hart, managing partner of Atomic, combining brand science and creative fire. Today on the show, I have Elizabeth Windram, Director of Brand and Advertising at JetBlue. After a stint in finance, she found herself at E&J Gallo Winery and ultimately at JetBlue today, leading the brand. In 2016, she was named Adweek's Grand Brand Genius for her work on the JetBlue brand, highlighting campaigns like Reach Across the Aisle and Fly Babies. On today's show, we talk about the brand's purpose of inspiring humanity and how the campaign of Fly Babies came about. We also address the importance of staying culturally relevant with your brand and the importance of understanding finance in the context of marketing. Well, Elizabeth, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me, Alan.
Great. Well, I wondered if you could tell us all a little bit about your role at JetBlue and what you do.
Sure. So I have the really incredible privilege of stewarding the JetBlue equity. This brand is so loved by customers, and I need to find more of them, and I get to tell our story, and it's a great story. So I lead the brand and advertising team here. That means that we lead paid media, social media and content, sponsorships, events, promotions, as well as our in-house creative engine that drives brand strategy, look and feel across all collateral, as well as airports and aircraft.
Well, congrats on the 2016 Grand Brand Genius Award from Adweek. So you're a Grand Brand Genius. You know, what does that mean to you?
It means I'm still in shock. It was so lovely of Adweek to recognize our work and to be chosen as the grand prize winner in a category of such amazing brands and brilliant marketers was just such an honor. And now it means there's a whole lot of pressure.
And so that award is for the vision and creativity that's driving the JetBlue brand. So tell me more about, how JetBlue's doing that. What are you and your team doing?
I'd say JetBlue is still a young company, and we're still very much on a journey, which is a lot of fun. We're a fantastic brand, but we have a lot of runway to grow. I will do as many airline puns as I can for you. But we really, really do. And everything we do is rooted in our mission, which is to inspire humanity. JetBlue started in the year 2000 to bring humanity back to air travel. And we've sort of escalated that and said it's actually just to inspire humanity, and we want to be the most caring travel provider in the world, which is a huge mission and a huge vision. So everything is really rooted in that, and our ideas come from there, and they grow from there. I know oftentimes marketers have their frame of reference being their category, and I find that to drive innovation and creativity, I tell my team not to even look at our category and get inspiration from outside the category and really just stay rooted in the JetBlue mission and the JetBlue vision and our values, which happen to be safety, caring, passion, integrity, and fun. When we do that and we tell our own story, that's really how we're driving our own vision and bringing the most creativity that we can.
Now, inspiring humanity, I mean, that's a lofty goal.
Yeah.
How did you arrive at that?
So inspiring humanity is something that was born out of the original mission of bringing humanity back to air travel that was part of the founding of the company 17 years ago. And inspiring humanity seems really lofty for an airline, but really we do it every single day in every choice that we make. And of course, that's part of our marketing, but really out in airports and in our aircraft, our frontline crew members are out there doing that every day, and they are truly empowered to make great choices for our customers. And that's how we inspire humanity. If you haven't flown JetBlue, you may not know what I'm talking about, but what is incredible is the people who have flown JetBlue and are our customers, they get it right away. There's a huge gap between people who know us and people who've experienced us and people who don't. They understand what it is. So to an outsider, inspiring humanity, you're an airline, come on, just get me from point A to point B. On JetBlue, it really isn't like that.
So one campaign I saw recently was one. It was called Fly Babies, and as a loving father and a frequent traveler, you took one of those dreaded moments of crying babies and turned it into something to celebrate. You know, one, I applaud that effort because I've been in that
Thanks.
situation on both sides.
Yeah.
But the other thing is, I'm curious where that idea came about. Was it an internal idea? Was it external? Was it a collaboration with someone or a partner?
So I'll start by telling you that I have a daughter, and I am obviously a working mom. And in her first 2 years, while she could fly as a lap baby for free, I flew 57 segments with my infant daughter. So, which is ambitious and maybe a little crazy, but I did that just to, be able to bring her on business trips and what have you. And my husband really supported that. So, but anyway, I've been there, right? So
Right.
57 segments with a kid under 2, and that, that I knew that insight was right. I knew it. So when we started talking about what does JetBlue do for Mother's Day, and our agency brought us this concept, very high level, what if we addressed the issue of crying babies on a plane, and, how tough that is on the moms and the parents. And, I got that feeling that I get when I know an idea is good, which is I'm really, really excited and also really, really scared. And it's a real gut feeling. And that's effectively when I know that it's right. And I knew from my own experience that the insight was correct, and that no matter what we did to bring that to life, that it would be okay because it was insight driven and a real fit for our mission and our values to take that side and say, oh my gosh, it's hard on the mom. And when you get on that plane and people give you that look like you're this like devil person who dares bring a child, and sort of highlight that irony, I guess. I don't know if it's technically irony, but that bizarro thing that happens where everyone is lovely about babies everywhere you go, and suddenly on a plane, it's like this complete flip, right? So that was the genesis of the idea, and I am so glad that we did it, despite a ton of challenges. We got a lot of folks internally and externally as we were building this campaign that said, are you really going to talk about babies crying on a plane? No one wants to talk about that. It's very alienating to business customers, and we want them to still fly with us, of course. And, don't we care about them too? And really, like, why do you have to tell this story? But I went back to that feeling fundamentally of saying, no, this insight is correct and will resonate. And ultimately it did. And I'm glad that I pulled the trigger on that.
So these challenges that you talk about, how do you push through knowing that you just got a good idea? How do you either convince or push through? Where do you find the inspiration to do that?
I find that bringing people along for the ride is always helpful. So you can't sort of do everything in a silo, and you've got to bring all of your stakeholders along and ask their opinion and actually care about their opinion and their point of view and their expertise, whether that's your PR team or your legal team. So I'm also very flexible and willing to make changes. I'm willing to ask our creative team to make changes, to make the work better, to incorporate a point of view that is trying to protect our brand or trying to make it better. I find that as long as you don't mess with the core insight, you're probably still okay. Where I won't make changes is if something is fundamentally changing the thing that made it right and that made it work to begin with. But I would say bringing people along, and also knowing when you don't have to take someone's opinion. Sometimes it's enough to just say, okay, I've heard you and I'm not doing that and here's why. But I think listening at least goes a long way.
Another campaign I saw was Reach Across the Aisle. And, obviously it being an election year this year, it was great cultural relevance. But I'm curious, how do you keep your team to maintain that? And I think that follows through with the Fly Babies too. You're tugging at something that's just core to the cultural elements of what's going on today.
Right, and it's one of my main goals is to keep JetBlue culturally relevant. So, Here's what I do. There's not a ton of science to it. I tell my team and my agency, everyone, that it is their job to be reading everything that they can. Not just business and marketing or airline stuff, but everything. So that we are part of these conversations, so that we know what's going on, so that we, get the joke, right? And can join in conversations, big and small, when it's relevant, when we have a way in. And then the flip side of that is, I have to do it, but also it's my job to stay open to those ideas. So when someone comes to me and says, hey, there's this thing, or there's this conversation, and maybe we can be a part of it, I need to be open to that as well and not be afraid of it.
I was looking at your background, and you started off in finance before MBA. Then you went into wine, and now you're in aviation.
Obviously.
Tell me a little about that journey. Tell me a little about that journey.
I have found that my whole life makes a lot of sense in reverse. And perhaps everybody feels that way. When you look back, you go, oh, that all made sense. But going forward, it doesn't seem like you know where you're driving at all. So maybe that's helpful to some listeners, that I think that's a lot of people's experience. So I found my passion in marketing right around the time I went to business school. I actually enjoyed my time in finance, and I learned a lot, and no one can ever take that away from me. It also makes me a little bit dangerous as a marketer, because the finance folks and the budget police really can't sort of pull the wool over. And it's surprising what conversations I'm able to have with people, which is great. And it allows me to approach marketing from a very general management sort of approach.
I love it.
Yeah.
I mean, so I'm not got a finance background, but I love to use finance in marketing conversations. So I was curious about that, especially when you get into a conversation about how you're investing behind the marketing and investing behind the brand. And, you have that typical finance conversation, which is, okay, well, where are those investments? And I said, well, that's just because GAAP doesn't allow for them to show up on the balance sheet. I'm sorry. So we need some new rules.
Exactly. Oh my gosh, exactly. You know what, too, just as marketing, I talk a lot about insight-driven ideas and brand values and our mission and storytelling and connecting with customers. But at the end of the day, this is also a science, and we need to be rigorous about it and measuring how we're doing and getting better every day. So, just because it's fun to talk a lot about emotional connections with customers and all of the brand building jargon, this is also fundamentally about running a business. And that's what marketing is. I think a lot of people think we just do creative things and kind of throw spaghetti at the wall and hope that it works. That's not what's happening. And that's not the kind of marketing department that we're running here.
So now stepping back.
That sounded very harsh.
No, it's perfect.
Okay.
It's perfect. So stepping back and talking even more about yourself a little bit more, what fuels your success? What drives you?
This is not a job for me. That's really what drives it. It's not a job. I love what I do, and it doesn't feel like work at all. That really, really helps. I think about JetBlue and marketing and business problems and puzzles and ideas all the time. My husband, who's wonderfully supportive, he says employing me is a really great deal because you get my brain working on your business challenges pretty much all the time. That's not to say I don't have balance. I spend a lot of time with my daughter and my husband, of course. But I'm always sort of bringing all of my experiences to bear with my JetBlue hat on. So it doesn't feel like work. When people are unhappy in their job, I'm like, oh, is this a job for you? You should find something that doesn't feel that way every day, because you'll be great at that. And I would also say, just personally, I'm never really happy and never satisfied. I am my own best critic, and I see in everything I do the dozens of things that I want to do differently next time or that I would change. And that, while sometimes it's frustrating, it actually does keep me going to try to do better and better and better. I try to have fun too, and I just want to work with other people who think that this is fun. That's what drives me.
Great. What brands or companies are you following or you think others should take notice of? I mean, obviously JetBlue, but if we think about others, where do you look?
Sure. I am a little bit obsessed with a brand. It's a new brand called MM La Fleur. It is a women's clothing company based here in New York, and they are solving the problem of professional work clothes that are high quality, affordable, and appropriate for women in the workplace. It's really an incredible business, and they're starting to grow, and I love the way that they're communicating with their customers, so people should check that out for sure. It's very personal. It's a lot of great storytelling about their customers and how their clothing has become a part of their life. They do a great blog and a really great email newsletter that I actually read. So that's one. I love SoulCycle. I'm totally in the cult, and I love it from a product perspective, from an experience perspective, but from a marketing perspective as well. They have built a cult. Wow. What's not to love? And they don't do a lot of paid media at all. They do a lot of really fun, culturally relevant things around. I see it here in New York, and I've seen it in other cities that they're in. They feel very local.
Very nice. Very nice. We get out your crystal ball because I know you have to have one.
Oh yeah.
Where do you think marketing's going? What do you expect to be on the horizon for marketing?
I think that we are going to become more science-driven, more data-driven. This is moving away from the sort of creative, gut feel, loosey-goosey stuff and into a lot more of a rigorous field, and I think will be perceived as such. And marketing is really about business problem solving. And so I would like us to all collectively think about ourselves in that way and talk about marketing in that way.
Well, Elizabeth, thank you for coming on the show.
My pleasure. Thank you so much.